Okay, continue, Chief.
Thank you, sir.
Please.
Continuing on, if you would turn your attention to Taser Maintenance, about the middle of that particular line item. For an expenditure of $6,400, it was brought to my attention that the last last approval for Taser purchase was our fifth, which should be our last. So I've reached out to Axon, which is who we purchased the Tasers through, to see what, if any, additional expense there's going to be from year to year for maintaining the evidence.com software, or if there's going to be any cost for maintenance and support going forward. Assuming that if that cost is zero, then we've satisfied our obligation and there won't be any additional need for that particular expenditure. But I'm still waiting to hear back for sure just how that's going to change, and I'll definitely make sure to keep Shannon as well as the council up to date on that. Otherwise, for the most part, from year to year, everything else is about the same. Are there any questions on page 9? Repairs and maintenance vehicles. So at the very bottom, it's squad car computer maintenance. At the beginning of this budget process, Deputy Chief Wallace brought to my attention that our squad car computers are starting to need repair. When I reached out to IT, they informed me that the computers that we currently have are about 5 to 6 years old, and we're starting to see hard drives, keyboards, and screens break on these computers. And ultimately, computers that reach that type of lifespan start to lack the necessary hardware to handle software updates. So there will be a point in time where we're probably going to need to replace most of the computers that are left and haven't been replaced. I've been working with the sheriff and IT to decide how we're going to go about doing that for those who were here and for those who weren't. When we purchased them about 5 to 6 years ago, the city and county went to Crime Stoppers as a funding source, who ultimately funded the purchase of the laptops that we currently have in the squad cars. So we're looking at different funding sources, Crime Stoppers to be one, to see if their financial situation is such that would allow them to possibly consider that. Otherwise, we'll have to look at different alternatives as well. Any other questions regarding that line item? Squad car maintenance, you'll see, has come down $5,000 from the previous year. So we are starting to see some of the benefit from having warranties on those older vehicles. We would anticipate that that number to continue to decrease as well as time goes on. Any questions on page 10? Telephone and utilities, status quo from the previous year. If there's no questions, I'll continue on to 12. Physical exams. There is one line item in here that I'd like to touch on, wellness checks. This is something new for our department as a request this budget year. In accordance with the Safety Act, the state is mandating the Illinois Training and Standards Board to come up with mental health requirements for police officers. Mental wellness has been an area of focus for the law enforcement community over the last decade or two. Historically, law enforcement is focused on teaching young officers how to manage their emotions during critical incidents, allowing them to navigate high-stress, emotionally taxing, and life-threatening situations. However, our profession has failed to teach those same officers the skills they need to deal with the psychological aftermath of those situations, causing the officer to compartmentalize each tragedy. Eventually, there are no more compartments, and those experiences start to manifest themselves in unacceptable behavior or, unfortunately, in officer suicide. The Police Executive Research Forum has weighed in on mental health checks for law enforcement. In fact, mental health checks is number 3 on their list of 10 on how to prevent law enforcement officers from committing suicide. According to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial and Museum's 2021 mid-year report, 28 officers were killed by gunfire, 38 killed in traffic accidents, 18 killed in other ways, 71 died from COVID, but 89 law enforcement officers in the United States had died by suicide. So my command staff began discussing our own approach to mental wellness checks for our staff. Based on our research, we request consideration for yearly wellness checks for every member of my staff. These checks would consist of an hour with a designated doctor, therapist, or counselor. These appointments would not be medical evaluations, but a proactive approach to mental health wellness. The command staff researched a handful of options to provide this service. First, Cami Juswin. She's a clinical psychologist, holds a professional certification as police psychologist. She's embedded with the Bartlett, Illinois Police Department, where her primary role is officer wellness and support. She has gotten to know several of our officers due to her being the psychologist that conducts psychological evaluations for cops and fire testing services. She's evaluated several officers who are testing for the rank of sergeant. Over the last 5 to 7 years, Cami has volunteered on a couple different occasions to debrief several of our officers who were involved in critical incidents. Some of the highlights regarding the information that we discovered, Cami said she would charge $100 an hour. She works out of the suburbs, which would make in-person interviews difficult. She's available by remote, but not the preferred method by most officers to share. She said no matter who we select, make sure they have a background in working with law enforcement officers. We also spoke with Kevin Polke, who is founder and executive director of KP Counseling, licensed clinical social worker, certified alcohol and drug counselor. He's known to us through the work with the Greg Lindmark Foundation, and what we discovered after talking with Kevin, that he would charge $110 an hour. He has 31 therapists on staff, several with certifications and experience working with law enforcement. This is beneficial because therapists are not one size fits all. This would provide the most options for officers to feel comfortable talking to someone. His practice is local, staff is flexible with coming to the PSB, or officers can be seen in the office. Staff is willing to work hours consistent with our night shift to prevent overtime. Kevin has developed trainings on how to deal with stress and can provide that training for additional costs. Finally, we researched the possibility of using the Employee Assistance Program, otherwise known as EAP, that the city already participates in for employee counseling. What we found is they have gone primarily to remote counseling. They don't have anyone trained specifically for dealing with law enforcement officers. Wellness checks are not supported by the city's current plan and would cost an additional $150 an hour per employee. If this budget request is approved, it would be the intention of the department to provide the officers with the option of using KP Counseling or Cami Juswin for wellness checks for the department. I'll take any questions regarding wellness checks.
Alderman Snow.
Just a point of interest, because I was looking at the dollar amounts. The line item says 47 at $16. I'm assuming it's supposed to be 160.
Yeah, it actually cut off. It's 160.
Any other questions? If I could have you turn to 13, community policing. As you'll see, this is a 26% decrease in the overall budget from last year. Primarily, we had budgeted previously for additional CPA classes and anticipating additional costs associated with those. The actual costs were much less than we originally anticipated, and the budget amount reflects that. questions? Page 14, Canine program expense. The only change here is the increase for the Canine Tracker account access from last year to this year. They raised their costs for the program, and what that is software to keep track of canine activity and statistics. Any questions on 14? Page 15, sex offender state disbursements. What we have to do, we take $100 per new registrant or yearly registrant for sex offenders, and then out of that $100, money is dispersed to the state treasurer, state's attorney's office, and that's what this line item reflects. This is nothing that comes from the taxpayer. It comes as a distribution to the state that the police department collects statutorily from sex offenders. If there's no questions, page 16, office supplies, requesting the same amount as we had the previous year. And that's just general supplies for the yearly operation of the police department. Page 17, gas and oil. When the budget process began, we anticipated a price per gallon of $2.80, which was an increase from the previous year of $2.50 that we had requested. And as time went on, it is very possible that our estimate might even be low at $2.80. So only time will tell what that ultimately ends up being. But at this point, we are requesting $126,000 for the same amount of gallons as we had previously budgeted for the previous year. Any questions on gas and oil? Page 18, operating supplies. If you will go down about halfway to digital media storage, significant increase from 22 to 23, from $250 to $6,000. That is for USB drives and memory storage data drives that we've been forced to purchase over the last year due to the number of surveillance videos that we recover, interviews that we do, that ultimately both of those then have to be downloaded when we recover them originally and then copied onto another USB drive in order to supply it for discovery to the state for court purposes. It's just been an expense that has been growing year after year, and I do not anticipate that going down unless we're able to successfully put in place software through either Panasonic body-worn cameras or another avenue where we can take that digital media and transfer it directly to the state's attorney's office through a cloud-based program that would eliminate us, or at least significantly reduce the need for having to copy that digital media onto those USB drives. We're looking at it. There's some IT issues that we've encountered. We're trying to navigate that, and hopefully within the next few years we're able to successfully complete that process. Any other questions on any other item within that page? Okay. Turning to page 19, miscellaneous expense, simply reducing that line item by $900. Well, this is, yeah, 900. Any questions on that? If there's no questions, equipment. Yeah. I'm going to go to the, underneath SWAT, you will see rifle-rated shield. I'm going to, do you know, we're gonna get volume.
Mr. Joe, is there volume? Is there a volume for him to play, for Chief Woody to play video? Gotta be on that, okay. I'm sorry, what?
Okay. So, the rifle-rated shield is a new expenditure request for $6,825, and I wanted to try and show you why it's necessary in our opinion. So let me set the stage. Currently, our SWAT team has ballistic shields that are handgun rated only. What that means is anytime we were to encounter somebody with any type of rifle at this point, none of our equipment would be capable of stopping that round. So we utilized a decommissioned patrol shield as well as one of our expired patrol vests. To give you an example of what we're talking about, Sergeant Washburn will be utilizing multiple rounds actually and shooting through the current equipment that we have to give you an idea of what we would face if we ended up being placed into an environment where the bad guy or suspect had a rifle. I don't know if we're going to get volume at this point, but the reality of it is, yeah, you'll get to see the effects.
Volume should be all the way up.
Yeah, it is. Let me try something here. What's that? I don't know.
It should be up all the way.
All right, here. Speakers set up.
What's this?
Yeah, that's, for some reason, it, at this point, anything.
You freeze your computer.
No, I felt hurt in here. Yeah, that's what I'm
That's what he was doing.
Try to right click it, see, speaker set up on their own.
Do you want to sit here? I can move.
Is that? Yeah?
Your speaker.
Really? Out of all this, that's what you took away from it? Hmm? It works. What? It's from home, so yeah.
You lost your chance to go without it. You lost your codec.
Lost what?
The piece of software runs the speakers. I'll have to have IT fix that tomorrow. Shane, do you want to put that on my computer?
Yeah, if you want.
Just to close it off your computer and disconnect from the projector.
They need to see it though, because it's impactful. They need to see the video.
Hey, I tried to get him to come. He heard you were here, he's like, no.
That's your video. Right now I hear him. Ah, craziness.
So what we're going to do is we're going to have a demonstration of shooting a ballistic shield that's rated for pistol rounds. We're going to shoot it with rifle rounds. Justice, which is how they rate it. So it's a level 3A shield, and if you'll come around and look, we have it set up on the dummy where the dummy is actually wearing one of the ballistic vests that has been issued historically to the Belvedere Police Department. So
That's your video.
first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to shoot it with a 5.56 caliber rifle round. This is a 75 grain Hornady round, which is a hollow point round. All right, you guys good?
Yep.
All right. Range is hot. Another 5.56 round. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a demonstration, which is a 62 grain Hornady bonded. I'm sorry, this is a federal bonded round. We're going to shoot it with rifle rounds. You guys good?
Yep.
Justice, which is how they rate it. It's a level 3A shield, and if you'll come around and look, we have it set up on the dummy where the dummy is actually wearing one of the ballistic vests that has been issued historically to the Belvedere Police Department. So
That's your video.
first thing I'm going to do, you can't even see on the front of the shield, shoot it with a 5.56 caliber rifle round. This is a 75 grain Hornady round, which is a hollow point round.
I
All
lost
right, you
it.
guys good?
Yep.
All right. Range is hot. Another 5.56 round.
How do you get back to it?
So what we're grain Hornady bonded, or I'm sorry, this is a federal bonded round. We're gonna shoot it with rifle rounds. You guys good?
Yep.
The gist is, the equipment that we currently have
Would not.
does not stop rifle rounds. And the last several call-outs that our SWAT team has encountered have been suspects with rifles. So at a bare minimum, had that suspect fired at our SWAT team, there wouldn't have been any piece of equipment that we currently have to stop that round.
So how many shields does 6,800 get?
That is one shield. So,
One shield.
yep, that is one shield. It's a level 4 shield, so it'll stop rifle rounds and pretty much any rifle round that they could throw at it, so.
Alderwoman Freeman?
So, would you think that our officers would be that close from where that officer was shooting at that, I guess, dummy? Or would distance not really matter when it comes to being shot with a rifle like that?
No, the only thing that distance is going to affect with a weapon like that is your point of aim. Ultimately, the velocity and impact is going to penetrate any equipment that we currently have, and that was really the point of the exercise. So if he would have moved back to 100 yards, the demonstration and the result would have been exactly the same, which ultimately is that round would have penetrated that shield and penetrated the vest that that officer was wearing, ultimately entering the body cavity. So if there's no other questions right now pertaining to that one, the other expenditure request that we had budgeted for are locking rifle mounts, and that is for 4 of them at $425. That's so our officers can ultimately put their rifles in their squad cars and lock them in the squad car as opposed to having them in a gun case currently. And then the night vision monocular and adapter, we combined the adapter and the night vision from the previous year into one line item. This year, ultimately, as I explained last year when I requested this expenditure, our SWAT team goes into environments that are sometimes at night or poorly lit during the day, interior environments where there is no light and they need the ability to see, and this piece of equipment would provide that for them. I recognize that this isn't a very costly piece of equipment, and that's why we've budgeted for it over a multi-year period. Because ultimately, it would be our goal to have each of our SWAT operators equipped with this piece of equipment, so they all have the ability to see in the dark. This would provide us with 3 at this point. Any other questions for anything else on the equipment page 20 of 21?
Chief, how many total then are you looking at? Is it 3 or is it how many?
For the team, it'd be 8 total.
8.
Yes, sir.
And we have currently, this is just the 3rd?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, Moving along to digit-ticket supplies, as I kind of touched on previously, these are funds from citations that are distributed by statutes, and they are strictly for printers and supplies. The county, the city, and circuit clerk's office all get monies distributed to them for this program, and ultimately, we're all responsible for purchasing this equipment on our own, utilizing these funds. And ultimately, for those who don't know what DigiTicket is, it's a program that allows officers to enter data into the computer. That data is then printed onto a piece of paper, and that piece of paper is ultimately the violator citation. It's handed out to the violator, and then once the officer gets back to the public safety building, that information is then sent through the cloud into the public safety building, into our RMS system, and then also over to the circuit clerk's office. So it makes data input much more efficient. Any questions on that? Okay. And then capital expenses, if you would. Police Department this year is requesting 4 vehicles, 2 Chargers, 2 Durangos, and for a estimated cost of $252,000, $468. We would be, at least at this point, anticipating replacing a 2008 Dodge Durango with 190,000 miles, a 2016 Charger with 81,000, a 2007 Charger with 121,000, and a 2012 Durango with 140,000. The 2016 Dodge Charger currently has a blown engine as well. This is something, as we go forward with the utilization of squad cars and maintenance being kind of a fluid issue that we deal with every day, depending on ultimately when the budget is approved and what expenditures are approved for the police department. Those squad cars may have to be prioritized if we have something else that goes down in the meantime, and well, we have to look at another vehicle that may be a bigger maintenance issue than ones that I've already listed. So. Then at the bottom, patrol and annex remodel, we would be requesting to utilize impact fees for this capital expenditure. Patrol remodel, if you remember, our patrol office was built roughly 35 years ago in the basement of the Boone County Public Safety Building. Over the last 4 years, we have made some renovations to it to include our evidence area and then our less lethal and ammunition area, utilizing impact fees. We would be requesting utilization of those monies for additional renovations that I'll pass around now, just to give you an idea of what we're looking at. This would be for the main patrol area, which hasn't been renovated since its original construction, probably in the late 90s. Just to give you an idea of what we would be looking to do at the patrol level. And in addition to that, we would be requesting to use impact fees for finishing the remodel at the annex, which would include finishing a bathroom and ultimately a little kitchenette area in the front of the structure where there would be a sink, some cabinets, and things of that nature. So when, if this were to be approved through the process, I would come back with more specific information to request to go forward.
Alderwoman Freeman?
Thank you. So, Chief, for your vehicles, it looks like over the next 4 years or so, you're looking for 16 new Durangos. I know that we, just a couple years ago, bought a new Durango when, I think it was Officer Parker crashed one. So who drives these Durangos? They're not like patrol cars, right? They're for the Canine, 2 officers, and then who else?
All of our supervisors have a Durango. Our Canine officers have Durangos, and then all of our detectives have Durangos as well.
Okay, any other questions? Chief Woody? Alderwoman Frame?
Chief Woody, for the remodel, do we share that with the county? Would they be putting any money towards this remodel?
No, this is a city-owned building. They have not and would not be expected to share in any of the costs. However, they do use it. We have equipment in there that they utilize from time to time, but this is a city-owned building.
I was confused. I thought it was at the courthouse, but it's across the street. Right.
Oh, I guess I should first clarify. Are you referring to the patrol or annex remodel?
They're two different.
Yes, ma'am. Let me know if this helps at all. The annex is a structure across the street from the public safety building that the police department purchased years ago in anticipation for a possible expansion of the PSP. Since then, with the building being in a dilapidated state, the council approved to use impact fees to rehab it, which the police department has been able to utilize for not only storage, but we have workout equipment over there as well. But that is something that the city ultimately ended up purchasing on their own.
Okay,
Any other questions?
is that it? Okay. Thank you, Chief Woody.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, normally, this looks like item 6 is an adjournment, but I'm going to ask that we have a motion to go into a quick executive session. We're going to go into I would like a motion to go into executive session to discuss employment and compensation of specific employees pursuant to Section 2C1 of the Open Meetings Act. Could I get a motion to that effect, please? Motion by Alderman McGee, a second. Second by Alderman Porter. All those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed will say nay when the clerk calls the roll. Please, thank you.
Brereton.
Aye.
Fleury.
Aye.
Frank.
Aye.
Freeman. McGee. Mulhall. Aye. Porter.
Aye.
Prather.
Aye.
Snow.
Aye.
Stevens.
Aye.
10 in favor.
Okay. Well, take a few moments. I think the only individuals we need here is Chief Woody, the council, City Clerk Shannon, and City Attorney.